Hello, this is Dr. Jenkins. We are back this week for lab number 2, which is on the microscope. So I want to give you a quick little video just to kind of go through the lab and what you should be doing, all right? Okay, so when I opened up this lab on the iPod here, for some reason the formatting got off and I couldn't fix it. But suffice to say, this is lab number 2 on the microscope, and aside from the first page being all weird, the remaining pages look how it actually looks to you. So for this week, what you're going to do is you're going to open up lab number 2 on the microscope, and then you will simply just go through it in order, okay? It starts on the first page. This is actually listing the objectives, but what you'll actually start with are reviewing the parts of the microscope. And we'll talk about the parts of the dissecting microscope and the parts of the compound microscope. I mean, come on everyone, what would a biology class be without a microscope? We try and dress it up a little bit so it's not quite as boring, but it is important to review the parts of the microscope. There's some information I give you in bullet points, and this allows you to compare and contrast the dissecting microscope to the compound microscope, and then you'll see a video link. And they're pretty good, people. So don't try and cut corners. Watch the video link. It's really not that long. So this is going to be a link that goes through the parts of the dissecting microscope. And then you will see a video, this is a video link, that talks about the parts of the compound microscope. So please do me a favor, watch the short videos. In your lab quiz this week, you will have to know the parts of the microscope. In the online Blackboard quiz, I'm going to show you a picture, and then I'm going to have an arrow. Maybe the arrow points here, and I'm going to have you label it. So you're going to, if the arrow is pointing right there, you're going to label it ocular lens. If the arrow is pointing right here, you're going to label it objective lens. So make sure you learn the parts of the compound microscope and the dissecting microscope. They're similar, but a couple differences. Also, make sure you're paying attention to the information in bold. And I do that on purpose because I want to point out what is most important. Now, sprinkled through the lab, you're going to see some questions. Right? And they're always going to say questions for you. So if it were me and I was going through the lab in order, I would just go ahead and answer these in order. So this first question comes right from the video, right? So as you're watching the video, answer the questions. They come right from the video. Sometimes it even gives you the time of the video. So we can't make it any more straightforward than that. Okay, same thing after this one, you'll see some questions. Answer them as you go through. These questions come from the compound microscope video. After you go through those, now this is part 2 of the lab, where we have a fake crime setup. Ooh, I can just hear your excitement. So I give you the information. It's about a break-in and a robbery. Again, what's most important is in bold. And then you're just going to go through it in order, right? So we're going to go through first a visual examination of some of the evidence pieces that were found at the scene. So there were some seeds found, and here's a visual picture of the seeds. And then you're going to try and match those to these types of seeds. The formatting here is a little bit off, but on your paper, it'll show up properly, I promise. And then you're going to see another piece of evidence, and you're going to try and match the font. It is all laid out in order for you. Then you're going to do an examination with the dissecting microscope. So here we see another picture of the seeds, but it's further magnified. And again, you're going to see if it matches any of these. Then we're going to use the compound microscope to analyze 2 more pieces of evidence. There was a thread found, and you're going to compare that to our known samples to see which it matches. and there was a blood smear found. So these are pictures using the compound microscope, and you'll compare the blood to our samples of blood. At the end, and as you go through, you'll answer the questions, okay? In the end, we have 5 suspects. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So based on your evidence, you're going to see which of these suspects you believe did the crime. A note, my friends, this is not going to be 100% slam dunk. So when you look at these suspects, just like it is in the real world, it's not going to be that everything falls into line so easily. But there is definitely one of these suspects that matches the evidence best. Okay, so when you answer these last 2 questions, you're going to answer which suspect you think did it and then why, right? And as long as you give me a logical explanation, you'll get the points. Now, after you've gone through the whole lab, you're going to open up the full lab assignment number 1. Now, last week I had part 1 available for you, and that was the scientific method lab. So you can just simply copy and paste the same answers you did from last week. Same thing from last week. But now I've added questions for lab number 2. And guess what? These are the exact same questions from the lab. So all you have to do is transfer, pardon me, all you have to do is transfer the exact same answers, pardon me again, all you have to do is transfer these exact same answers to this document. So it's not more work. It's just the same questions on a sheet. This whole full lab assignment number 1 is worth 50 points. If you do well, you get a 50 out of 50. It lessens the pressure you have on the lab quiz, right? So this week, by Sunday at midnight, you have to email me your lab assignment. And then also, within that week, by Sunday at midnight, take your online lab quiz. As always, I'll be here if you have questions. Go off and solve the crime.